Carrie Underwood had always been admired for her vocal talent, humility and grace. She was America's sweetheart, an artist who had transcended genres, selling out arenas while keeping a firm grasp on her small-town roots. But fame was never a shield against controversy, and on one fateful evening, she learned just how volatile public opinion could be. It was meant to be a night of unity, a celebration of democracy. Carrie had been personally invited to perform at the inauguration of the newly elected president, a figure who, while controversial, had won through a democratic process. Her role was simple: to sing the national anthem, a tradition as old as the country itself. She had done it before countless times, with nothing but praise, yet this time was different. From the moment she stepped onto the stage in Washington, D.C., the atmosphere was charged. Cameras zoomed in as she took her place, her platinum blonde hair shimmering under the bright lights. Dressed in an elegant navy blue gown, an intentional nod to patriotism, she took a deep breath before delivering a performance that was nothing short of breathtaking. Every note was perfect, her voice carrying through the cold winter air, wrapping around the audience like a familiar embrace. The applause was thunderous. The crowd, made up of dignitaries, politicians, and everyday citizens, erupted in cheers. It should have been a triumphant moment, a simple yet profound reminder of unity. But even before she had stepped off the stage, trouble had already begun brewing. Within minutes, social media lit up. Some praised her performance, calling it one of her best yet, but others took a different tone. A single screenshot, a freeze frame of her shaking hands with the president after the performance, began making rounds online. Carrie Underwood aligning herself with this administration? One tweet read. Disappointed but not surprised. Another celebrity selling out for political gain, said another. And just like that, the narrative had shifted. It wasn't just about the performance anymore. It was about her, about what people thought she stood for, about the deeper hidden meaning behind her mere presence at the event. By the time she returned to her hotel that night, she was already a trending topic for all the wrong reasons. The storm was only beginning. By the time Carrie Underwood woke up the next morning, the internet had already turned into a battlefield. Her phone buzzed incessantly. Texts from friends, calls from her publicist, and a flood of notifications. She hesitated before opening Twitter, already sensing what awaited her. Her name was everywhere. Major news outlets had picked up the controversy, each putting their own spin on it. Some headlines painted her as a patriot, praising her for performing at an event meant to unify the country. Others took a more critical approach, accusing her of tacitly endorsing the administration by merely showing up. Carrie Underwood, American icon or political opportunist. Country star sparks outrage after inauguration performance. Fans call for boycott after Carrie Underwood's controversial appearance. She scrolled through the trending topics. Dual Carrie Underwood exposed. Boycott Carrie, or Carrie stands strong. Two opposing forces, each growing louder by the second. The worst part? The media wasn't just attacking her performance. They were picking apart every detail. Her outfit, her handshake, the way she smiled at the president. Some even went as far as dissecting past interviews, looking for any evidence to support their chosen narrative. One popular news segment looped a clip of her nodding during the president's speech, slowing it down as if it contained some hidden message. Then came the real sting, the industry figures turning on her. A late-night talk show host wasted no time mocking her. Looks like Carrie Underwood has gone from singing about small-town America to endorsing authoritarian rule, he joked, earning raucous laughter from the audience. A prominent music critic questioned whether she had ever truly been neutral, suggesting that her country roots had always hinted at certain leanings. But it was an op-ed from a major entertainment magazine that sent a chill down her spine. Underwood's silence in the face of controversy speaks volumes, it read. Her refusal to denounce certain figures in this political climate is in itself a statement. Carrie put her phone down, staring blankly at the ceiling. What was she supposed to do? She had never been a political person. Her music had always been about love, loss, and the simple beauty of life. She had performed for presidents before, both Democrat and Republican, never thinking twice about it. But now, in this climate, neutrality was no longer an option. Her team urged her to release a statement, something to calm the fire before it spread further. But Carrie wasn't sure that would help. Anything she said could be twisted, turned into another headline. So, she did something no one expected. She said nothing. Instead, she watched. She waited. And she made a decision. If they wanted to twist her words, then she wouldn't give them any. She would gather every piece of misinformation, every fabricated story, every deliberate attempt to paint her in a false light. And when the moment was right, she would fight back, hard. Carrie Underwood knew better than to react in the heat of the moment. She had seen what happened when celebrities lashed out impulsively. It only fueled the fire, gave the media more ammunition. So instead of defending herself publicly, she did something far more calculated. She went silent. For days she watched as the storm intensified. Every network, every podcast, every blog seemed to have an opinion on her. The narrative became more distorted with each passing hour. News anchors debated whether she had always harbored political affiliations. Columnists questioned if her country music background had foreshadowed where she really stood. And then the real damage began. Several radio stations quietly pulled her songs from their playlists, fearful of backlash from both sides. A major sponsor backed out of an upcoming tour deal, citing the need to remain aligned with brand values. Even some fellow musicians, ones she had considered friends, subtly distanced themselves. But amidst the chaos, Carrie's silence became its own statement. While critics accused her of being complicit, her fans doubled down. "She's being targeted for doing her job," one supporter posted. "Since when does singing the national anthem make you a villain?" another wrote. The division was sharp, but Carrie wasn't interested in fueling the debate. She had bigger plans. Behind closed doors, she and her legal team compiled everything. Every segment that misrepresented her, every headline that twisted the truth, every baseless claim that accused her of motives she never had. And then came the bombshell, leaked emails from a major network. A trusted insider, disgusted by what they had seen unfold, provided undeniable proof that several TV executives had orchestrated the smear campaign. The emails revealed how producers had instructed their hosts to push the narrative that Carrie was aligned with the administration, regardless of her actual intent. "She hasn't made a statement yet, but we don't need one. We'll shape the perception for her." It was all there, in black and white. They had never cared about the truth. They had seen an opportunity to generate controversy and seized it, turning Carrie Underwood into the perfect target for ratings and engagement. That was the moment Carrie knew she had them. This wasn't just about her reputation anymore. It was about something much bigger. The media had crossed a line, one that needed to be redrawn, and she was about to do just that. The silence was finally broken, but not in the way the media expected. Rather than releasing a carefully worded PR statement or sitting down for an emotional interview, Carrie Underwood's response came in the form of a lawsuit. Filed in federal court, the lawsuit named a major news network and several high-profile television hosts, accusing them of defamation, malicious intent, and reputational harm. The court documents were airtight, outlining how the media had deliberately twisted the narrative, portraying her as politically aligned when she had done nothing but perform a song. Within hours, the news exploded. Carrie Underwood strikes back. Defamation suit shakes media industry. Country star files multi-million-dollar lawsuit against network. Shocking leaked emails prove media smear campaign. The same networks that had ridiculed her now scrambled to cover the lawsuit. Some doubled down, dismissing it as an attack on journalism. Others, sensing the shift in public sentiment, began cautiously adjusting their tone. The hosts named in the lawsuit went into defense mode. "This is a direct assault on free speech," one of them declared on air. "Public figures should be able to handle criticism." But Carrie's lawsuit wasn't about criticism. It was about deliberate falsehoods. Her legal team wasted no time presenting the evidence. The leaked emails were damning, proving beyond doubt that the network had orchestrated the attack before Carrie had even spoken a word. Worse, an insider whistleblower stepped forward, providing even more proof that the smear campaign had been pre-planned to create a divisive media frenzy. Screenshots of internal messages were released to the court. "We need engagement. Let's push the undercover political supporter angle. It'll stir up both sides. Don't wait for a statement from her. Just fill in the blanks. Controversy sells. Let's make sure she's the trending topic for the next week." Public reaction was instantaneous. Even those who had initially criticized Carrie were now forced to reconsider. If the media could fabricate a controversy about her, who else had they done it to? Supporters flooded social media, calling for accountability. "We Stand with Carrie" trended worldwide, while journalists and media analysts debated the larger implications of the case. Was this just about Carrie Underwood? Or was this a reckoning for the entire media industry? And as the legal battle moved toward trial, one thing became clear. The media had underestimated Carrie Underwood. She wasn't just defending herself, she was about to change the game. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, industry executives, and curious spectators filled every available seat. Outside, protesters and supporters gathered in equal numbers, holding signs that either condemned Carrie Underwood or praised her for taking a stand. She entered the courthouse with quiet confidence, her expression unreadable. She wasn't just here to clear her name, she was here to expose the truth. The opening statement set the tone for what would become one of the most closely watched trials in recent history. Carrie's legal team wasted no time. "This is not a case about free speech," her lawyer began, his voice firm. "This is about a coordinated effort to defame and destroy the reputation of an artist for the sake of ratings and public outrage." The defense, however, came out swinging. "Miss Underwood is a public figure," the network's attorney countered. "Commentary on her actions, whether positive or negative, is protected under the First Amendment. Our hosts merely gave their opinions, nothing more." It was a predictable argument, but Carrie's team had facts, and facts, once exposed, couldn't be ignored. The evidence that turned the case. One by one, Carrie's lawyers laid out the undeniable proof of the media's deception. First, they played unedited clips of the news segments that had sparked the firestorm. In real time, the courtroom watched as hosts took harmless moments, a handshake, a nod, a smile, and spun them into political narratives. Then, they introduced the leaked emails. When the jury read messages from producers instructing hosts to push the political angle, regardless of Carrie's actual intent, the reaction in the courtroom was palpable. But the final blow came when an insider witness took the stand. A former network employee who had worked behind the scenes on the very segments in question revealed the full extent of the manipulation. "The entire controversy was manufactured," the witness testified. "Before Carrie even stepped off that stage, executives were already deciding how to frame her as a political figure. They didn't care what she actually believed, they just needed a villain for their story." Gasps rippled through the audience. Even some journalists who had initially defended the network now looked uneasy. This was no longer just about Carrie Underwood. This was about the ethics of modern media. The courtroom had never been so silent, and the verdict was coming soon. The tension in the courtroom was unbearable. The jury had deliberated for nearly 6 hours, and now, as the four persons stood to read the verdict, the entire country was watching. News networks had preempted their regular programming to broadcast the moment live. Social media feeds were flooded with speculation, and millions of people, whether they loved Carrie Underwood or hated her, held their breath. The judge nodded to the jury foreperson. "We find in favor of the plaintiff, Carrie Underwood." For a split second, there was silence, as if the entire courtroom needed a moment to process the gravity of the decision. Then, whispers turned into murmurs, murmurs into exclamations. Cameras flashed. Reporters rushed to be the first to break the news. Carrie sat still, her hands folded in her lap, absorbing the moment. She had won. The jury had ruled that the network and its hosts had knowingly and maliciously defamed her. They hadn't just made careless mistakes or given harsh criticism. They had fabricated a narrative for the sake of controversy and profit. And now, they were being held accountable. The damages awarded were staggering, tens of millions of dollars. But more than the money, the real impact was on the media industry itself. Within hours, the network released a carefully worded statement, promising to review internal journalistic practices and commit to fair reporting. Some of the named hosts issued their own responses, with a few doubling down on their claims, while others admitted that mistakes had been made. But it wasn't just the defendants who had to answer for their actions. Other media outlets, seeing how easily one of the biggest networks in the world had been exposed, began re-evaluating their own reporting tactics. A ripple effect took hold. News organizations quietly updated policies on political commentary. Talk shows scaled back on inflammatory rhetoric. Even on social media, where misinformation thrived, people were beginning to think twice before blindly sharing sensationalist headlines. This case was bigger than Carrie Underwood. It had forced an industry to face itself. Carrie's response. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered, supporters, critics, journalists, and curious onlookers. As Carrie stepped outside, a hush fell over them. Microphones and cameras were shoved toward her, voices overlapping in a frenzy of questions. She held up a hand, calm, collected, graceful. "This was never about silencing anyone," she said, her voice steady. "It was about accountability, about reminding people that words have consequences, and that no one, no matter how powerful, should be allowed to distort the truth without facing the repercussions. She took a breath. I didn't ask for any of this. But when they tried to define me as something I'm not, I had two choices. Let them or stand up for myself, and I chose to stand. A round of applause broke out in the crowd. Some reporters asked follow-up questions, but Carrie didn't linger. She had said what she needed to say. It was over. In the weeks that followed, the impact of the trial only grew. The network's stock plummeted. Advertisers pulled back, worried about associating with a company now synonymous with reckless journalism. Talk show hosts changed their tone. Where there was once smug certainty in their narratives, there was now hesitation, a realization that they could no longer throw baseless accusations without fear of repercussions. Carrie Underwood's career soared. Her streaming numbers skyrocketed. Her concerts sold out faster than ever, and perhaps most importantly, her integrity remained intact. And while she could have used her victory to settle scores or lash out, she didn't. Instead, she moved forward. She released a heartfelt statement thanking her fans, her legal team, and even those who had once doubted her, because in the end, this wasn't about division. It was about something much bigger. The lesson we can all take from this Carrie Underwood's battle wasn't just about one artist versus the media. It was about truth, about responsibility, about understanding that in a world where narratives are shaped by those in power, it's up to us to think critically, to question what we're told, and to never accept surface-level assumptions as fact. This case changed the media landscape, but it also challenged all of us to reflect on our own role in shaping public discourse. How often do we share articles without verifying their credibility? How quickly do we form opinions based on headlines rather than facts? How easily are we manipulated by those who benefit from division? Maybe it's time we start asking those questions. If this story resonated with you, let's keep the discussion going. What do you think about the state of the media today? Have you ever seen misinformation spread about someone unfairly? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. And if you want to hear more stories that challenge perspectives, spark meaningful conversations, and remind us why truth matters, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about what happens to people like Carrie Underwood. It's about what we learn from it.